Well, hello everyone. I'm Per. You can just refer to me as the passwords guy because I'm really interested in passwords, and I've been so for the last 16 or so years. Essentially, I'm the founder and main organizer of PasswordsCon, which I told you, some of you last evening at room 4037. It's a conference that I'm doing now 2 times a year. Next one up is in Las Vegas in cooperation with B-Sides Las Vegas, August 4 and 5. And I'm doing it at the University in Cambridge in December, on December 7, 8, and 9. Las Vegas is, well, the traditional type of conference for Las Vegas. And University in Cambridge, it will be a bit more academic. We will also do or essentially maybe we will be doing post-proceedings. We don't know yet about that in Cambridge. And basically, passwords has been my hobby, my job, my interest for the past 16 years or so. And I don't have any other hobbies. I don't care about footballs or car, anything. Passwords is fun. And PIN codes, of course. I'm also basically the guy who initiated starttls.info. It's a website where you can type in any domain name and to look up the MX records for that domain and see if they have RFC 3207 starttls support for opportunistic email encryption. And that's a service that had been used by the ACLU and the EFF in the US last spring when we set up the service. So based on that, because we give a score for your starttls support, and based on that, the ACLU and EFF convinced Craigslist, Yahoo, Microsoft, and several other services to implement starttls support. In fact, as far as I remember, Apple app actually introduced starttls support, and they had it implemented within 72 hours after ACLU called them and said, hey, you don't have RFC 3207 starttls support. You really should have that. Kind of proud of that. So, autumn, almost 2 years ago, I was at a school in Bergen. I do a lot of talks. And I had a large group of teenagers, 16 years old. And I asked them, I want you to write down on a piece of paper a 4-digit PIN code that you are absolutely sure you can remember in 1 month from now on. You can do this exercise for yourself. Come up with a 4-digit PIN code, absolutely sure you can remember it in a month from now on. And I gave them a few other tasks as well, but I'm just going to show you this one now. Then, after they had put down the pen, I asked them, how many of you picked 1996? Because they were 16 years old, so they were born in 1996. And a lot of, especially the girls, blushed. Oh, yeah, I did that. Oh. And I can tell you right now that the boys in the audience, because 1996 was the most popular PIN code among the girls, and 1996 was the second most popular PIN code among the boys. But which 4-digit PIN code was the most popular one picked by the boys? Any suggestions? Guys, 1337. Come on, nobody here plays games online? Elite, short of elite. You're a good computer games player. You play, World of Warcraft online. And when I asked them, so how many of the boys were, picked 1337? And quite a big group of boys were like, yeah! World of Warcraft, Battlefield Online! And all the girls in the audience were like, oh, God, no. But as I said, 1996 was the second most popular PIN code. And then, a couple of months later on, I was at the university in Trondheim, here in Norway, at NTNU. And I did the same thing there, the same experiment with students there. And there was one girl who raised her hand, because in this audience, none of the girls, or at least they refused to say that they even knew what 1337 actually meant. But at the university in Trondheim, there was one girl Yep, I picked 3037. I was running down to her like, whoa, you could be the woman of my dreams. Well, a few things I got to check first. Do you play computer games, I said. And said, no, I don't do that. But I fully understand what you're thinking about. But I'm actually from a place in Norway that has the postal address 1337. And I have lots of male friends who are very envious of that. So there you go. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, during an assignment, I got access to more than 5,000 headshots, like the pictures that you have on access cards for a large company. And I also got to crack the Windows passwords of all these people. And I managed to crack all the passwords. I'm pretty good at cracking passwords. After 16 years, I'm pretty good. And we stuffed all that information into a database. Together with a colleague of mine, we went through more than 5,000 pictures and categorized them like this. Do they have glasses on the picture? Gentleman in front. We looked at hair color, like, oh, no hair available at all. Blonde, super blonde, brunette, redhead, and what we call in Norway the distinguished silver fox color. And we also looked at facial hair. And we created the categories of no facial hair, mustache, small beard, full beard. We had to do the Unix guru category. I mean, you can just imagine that, girls. Lance, are you here? Dude, I'm sorry. That one, the prawn donut, was really popular in Norway like 20 years ago. I had it myself. So I didn't do this because of you. I've shown this many other times as well. There's something about the name, the prawn donut, yes. And when you have this information, you can do SQL queries into the data. And what did we find? I mean, we should be drinking beer by now, because we found that women prefer length. And those of you laughing, we are talking about passwords. Francesca, it goes for you as well. Women prefer length. Now scientifically proven. And men prefer a wider selection, or entropy as it's called in cryptography. On average, men will use a wider range of characters in the passwords than women will. And for you specifically, because I've done this presentation many times, this slide, and salespeople, marketing people, they really like the next one. I'm a little bit unsure about you guys, because Unix gurus have the absolutely worst passwords of all. And Francesca is now thinking, well, what about, recovering Italian female lawyers with dark hair? I'm sorry. For some reason, I have absolutely no idea why. This is, still part of the research process. But red-headed women have the absolute best passwords. No idea why. My ex-wife is red-headed, and I still don't understand it. So the short version of this is, and this is just a very small part of the things that I do, you are very predictable, and we know that already. I mean, everything you do during the day, in the morning, when you get up, go for breakfast, to work and so on, is usually predictable. Also the way you pick your pins and your passwords. In fact, on pin codes as an example, with 10,000 different combinations available, if you get to pick your own, chances are pretty high, more than 60%, up in the 70% area, that you will pick one out of just 100 pin codes. If you can steal 11 credit cards and you know nothing about the end user, you only know that that person have selected their own pin code for the card, and you have 3 attempts before the card is blocked. Statistically, for 11 cards, 3 attempts per card, you should get access to at least one of them. Target got hacked. Some attacker got access to Target through an HVAC company. So basically, this company, if they had any kind of network intrusion detection or anything, maybe they could have spotted an attack happening. But Target essentially only saw a legitimate supplier of services logging onto the network doing work. Associated Press, AP on Twitter, 2 years ago. 1.9 million followers. One message came out, breaking 2 explosions in the White House and Barack Obama is injured. Do you remember that incident? You don't, because it never happened. But why is AP tweeting that this happened when it didn't happen? Well, we know who did it. Somebody had got access to the AP Twitter account. And they only put out one fake message, and that was that message. Did this happen? I mean, it's one message, it's one tweet, in one channel, in social media, online. It was out there for like 30 minutes, maybe less. Did this have any impact on anything? Do you remember? I mean, this is the Dow Jones index. You can probably see something happening over here in this area. That drop, this is when the message came out. This is the drop, and this is the normalization again. This drop and this time window was $136.5 billion drop in the Dow Jones index, and the time gap was 7 minutes. Now, if you know anything about trading shares in a publicly traded company, you know that 7 minutes, like that's a millennia. And a drop of $136.5 billion. That's a lot of money. That's actually more than, doing the Olympics in Norway again. Even, well, maybe not in China, but in Norway it will be more. And you also know that if you can predict this is going to happen, or something close to this is going to happen, well, you can essentially retire. You can make a lot of money if you know or have strong reasons to believe this is going to be the effect of putting out a Twitter message. And who did it? Well, these guys. I've talked to them several times. I don't like them. The Syrian Electronic Army. They say they are hackers. They say they are supportive of the current regime in Syria. And they say they are strong supporters of President Bashar al-Assad in Syria. What we don't know is if the hackers, if the president, or if the government in Syria or anyone else actually used this incident to make a lot of money. Obviously, when it happened, trading stopped for a moment, for minutes, at the Dow Jones and other stock exchanges as well, while the market was trying to figure out what just happened, because it, shares fell so fast. There's something has to be wrong. And of course, they found the Twitter message. They knew the market had reacted to this, and they could go back in time and look for unusual patterns in trading that would eventually indicate somebody knew this was going to happen. But when we are talking about $136.5 billion, if I knew this happened and I just invested $5 million, would that be such a small amount that it actually wouldn't show up in the statistics and the analysis being done by Dow Jones to look for fraudulent transactions, to look for suspicious activity. Because we are using threshold values to look for, oh, this is an attack. This could be an attack, and not this, below this is not an attack. Same applies to trading. Director's Desk was a product, or is a product, from NASDAQ. In October 2010, the FBI got alerts from NASDAQ that somebody was, well, smelling like rotten fish. Something was wrong. And in 2011, the NSA, who also got involved into the investigation of this, said there's a significant danger somewhere, somehow. It looks like the Director's Desk has been hacked. And at the time, then it got hacked, approximately 80% of all companies traded on NASDAQ were using Director's Desk for the board of directors to exchange board of directors information among themselves. What's the total value of the companies at NASDAQ? Quite a bit of money. Getting access to all those documents? Whoa. Treasure trove for financial guys. Russia is suspected of doing that hack, but the exact reasons for why they did it and what they eventually gained from it is, as far as I know, still unknown. There's a good article on Bloomberg that you can read about this. And the board of directors are interesting, because the board of directors, at least at large companies, they do have external members of the board that serves as nothing else than, being on the board for different companies. They might be lawyers, technicians, security people, people with a strong financial background. Some of them are absolutely new in the business. Some of them have been in business for many, many years. The board of directors in Norway also very commonly includes representatives of the employees, like union people. And the board of directors, one of the things they will do is to create and approve a codes of conduct document that you can typically find somewhere on the public web pages. It's a very simple, acceptable use policy. Don't get drunk in meetings with your clients. Don't do damage to the environment. Very simple stuff in the codes of conduct. It's a very high-level document. But one of the things I've been asking about is the codes of document, in many cases, especially in Norway, the codes of conduct document, which also applies to the members of the board of directors, it specifically says that if this document applies to you, your position, all security documentation, all acceptable use policies, security policies, etc., that we have in our company also applies to you. Now, if you are on the board of directors for 30 different companies, from a pure principle perspective here, does that mean that there are 30 different security policies that applies to you? Does that mean that I, as a member of the board of several companies, actually need 30 different laptops, 30 different phones, and 40 or 30 different iPads in order to actually be compliant with each and every security policy? Because no two security policies are the same between companies. And if you also look into, just do a Google search for insider list, there are laws and regulations in Norway and many other countries as well saying that in your company, if you are working with information that is highly sensitive to the company, that there's a you're going to buy another company, you're going to sell off parts of the company, or you're going to do massive laydowns, as an example, that could be a project that nobody's allowed to talk about to the media, to the press, or anything before you have informed the stock exchange so that the information becomes publicly available to the market. That information is very important to publicly traded company. And if you talk to a lawyer, They will talk about having legal access to that information. They don't care about you as a systems administrator having technical access to the document. They don't care at all. It's about legal access. You work with this information. They don't care about you having technical access to the data. So you don't end up on that insider list. To me, that could be a problem, because if I need to do an investigation on who stole our sensitive information, I will go and look at the insider list, because all of them are, in a way, suspects of a leak. But there are no IT guys in there, and I have to talk to them as well. All the help desk support people, I need to talk to them as well. And then it becomes a lot of people. So, famous quote from the movie Sneakers. If you haven't seen it, you gotta see it. Otherwise, I can't understand why you are in security at all. Cosmo said, "There's a war out there, old friend. An old war, and it's not about who's got the most bullets. It's about who controls the information. What we see on here, how we work, what we think, it's all about the information." Really good movie, great movie. Almost as good as War Games. That's the best one. And looking at the threat landscape, a lot of you talk about that. Threat environment, cyber threat landscape. One of the things I'm fascinated about is that you, and I as well, we talk about technology, but we fail to understand the human perspective of this. And in many, many cases, we also fail to understand the physical security aspect of maintaining good technical security. As an example, when you go back to your workplace, ask in the reception, "I have an access card," and during daytime you just pull the card through the reader and you get in and out, and after hours you need to, as an example, type in a 4-digit PIN code to get access in or out of the building. My question is, as an example, how many tries can I do on guessing that 4-digit PIN code before I actually get access? Because quite a few physical access control systems sold on planet Earth will give you unlimited number of attempts to get in. The card doesn't get blocked. And if you just have a bit of patience, and you have a Markov lookup table of the most commonly picked PIN codes, standing outside a large building and typing in 10,000 different PIN codes, it actually doesn't take that long time. There are even people who have built robots to do that, using Lego. So my point in this, the hacks that I've shown you now, all of them are essentially out of your reach as log analysts, as systems administrators. You don't handle Twitter for your company, do you? But if I, as a hacker, could get access to the official Twitter account of your company, and I will pull out a message, "Warning, financial losses are coming for the next quarter from us," that could potentially hurt your company a lot more than any hacker breaking into your firewall or Unix system, because frankly, I don't care. So in a way, I'm afraid that we are actually putting way too much priority in terms of security into the wrong systems. And here's a search you can do on LinkedIn. PA to the CEO. Type it into LinkedIn. I did. Personal assistant to the CEO, and I limited the search to London, United Kingdom. 843 results. Out of the 100 first, I was able to identify 1 man and 99 women. And we say the bad guys are bad guys, and bad guys are exactly that. They are guys. See the threat here? We know from police history here in Norway that male criminals have flirted, become friends with, become acquainted with, become lovers of female police officers to get access to police information about what do they actually know about some of my guys who are planning a big robbery. Now the CEO and the board of directors, they may have received really good training from Lance maybe, on how to behave in a hostage situation. Don't click that funny little email with those cute little emoticons that are popping up on the screen. My question is, what about the personal assistants? They don't make that much money. They haven't gone to bodyguard training, as far as I know. But I've talked to many of them, and they know the password of the CEO. They know lots of sensitive information. They are soft targets. They are young. They do really look really pretty to me. Maybe by pure coincidence that old male CEOs have young female PAs. Pure coincidence, of course. But my question is, could they be easy targets? Banking, financial services, investment management, non-profit organization management, venture capital and private equity, design, market research, marketing and advertising, construction. Interesting targets. And allow me to introduce you to the phrase tiger kidnapping. Tiger kidnapping was coined pretty much in the 1980s. The Irish Republican Army did this. They got famous for doing it. They will kidnap some family member or friend of yours, and then will say to you that we have kidnapped your kid or your wife, spouse, colleague of yours, and what we want you to do, we want you to go to this abandoned building, pick up a small package, there's a phone on top of it with a countdown timer. We want you to put that into your car, drive to a big building on our choice, park outside and press start on the countdown, and then we want you to run away. And if you do that for us, your cousin or your kid or your spouse will come back safely to you. The IRA really succeeded with that strategy. What could any bad guys do to a PA? Could they be coerced into installing a memory stick into the laptop of the CEO? Probably easier than asking them to plant a car bomb outside a government building. So in summary, the predictability of users is, and I hate the phrase APT, I like to use SPT instead, simple persistent threat. Users are predictable. Passwords are, PIN codes are. We do know that the dangerous attacks, the really dangerous attacks, usually actually still comes from the inside, from insiders, from people with access to inside information about the company. There's a reputation risk that is very difficult to control, and it's very difficult for you to detect that you are being attacked before it actually happens. And then it could be too late, like the AP attack. The board of directors and the primary insiders are truly, to me, a clear and present danger. But I've asked CISOs and CSOs, have you ever questioned the board of directors? How do you handle personal security? In fact, I've talked to lots of members of the board and to CEOs, and they have no clue how to change the 4-digit PIN code on their iPhones. And when I hear that, I will just point at you guys and say, you have failed. And I'm afraid, truly afraid, about those personal assistants. It hasn't been a risk factor as far as I know so far. And now, it's out there. So my recommendation is, I always tell people to do this. You have to think outside the box. You have to look at the bigger perspective. There's always a perspective bigger than yours. Try to think outside of it. See the big perspective, and please do understand that without physical security, without people understanding why we need security, security, and especially technical security, will completely fail. And that's pretty much it. this is the first talk I've done in a long time where I have actually spent less than 50% of the presentation not talking about passwords, so it feels kind of weird. But unfortunately, I'm going back in later in the afternoon, but I will be outside for a coffee break and maybe for next session. So if anyone have questions, feel free to contact me. Contact details on the slide as well.